days in jail.
30 days in jail. The gavel slammed. The sound echoed. Gasps filled the courtroom as the older black woman in the hoodie stood frozen at the defense table. Her crime? Asking about due process. Judge Evelyn Harrow leaned forward, smiling coldly. "This is my courtroom," she said. "The Constitution doesn't run it. I do." Some people laughed. Some looked down. No one defended her. The woman adjusted the strap of her worn canvas bag and looked directly at the judge. "You've made a serious mistake," she said quietly. What no one knew was that the woman they just sentenced outranked everyone in the building. Before we continue, tell me where you are watching from, and if you are loving this story already, do like and subscribe to our channel. Back to our story. The courtroom door slammed open so hard it echoed. Everyone turned. An older black woman in a faded green hoodie stepped inside, clutching a worn canvas bag like it held everything she owned. Her sneakers squeaked against the polished floor as she scanned the room. No one offered her a seat. No one smiled. And up on the bench, Judge Evelyn Harrow, Norwood County's most feared judge, didn't even bother to look up. "Next case?" Harrow snapped, flipping a file shut. "Let's move. I don't have all day." The woman in the hoodie quietly walked to the defendant's table. She moved slow, careful, like every step mattered. Her name was Gloria Bennett, and today she looked like someone the system chewed up and spat out. But Gloria wasn't nervous. She was watching, studying, measuring. Judge Harrow finally glanced up, and her lips curled. "Well," she said loudly, leaning back in her chair, "I see we've started letting people wander in off the street." A few lawyers in the gallery chuckled. Gloria didn't react. "Name?" Harrow demanded. "Gloria Bennett," she said calmly. Harrow squinted at the file. Zoning violation, neglected structure, failure to respond to city notices. She looked over her glasses. "Are you owner of that collapsing shed on Pine Street?" "Yes, Your Honor." "You ignored 3 warnings." "I never received them." The judge let out a loud, fake sigh. "Of course you didn't." More quiet laughter. Gloria kept her hands folded on the table. Harrow tapped her pen. "You people always say that. Mail gets lost, dog eats the notice, alien abduction." "I'm only asking for proper notice under due process," Gloria said gently. The room shifted. That didn't sound like the answer Harrow expected. The judge narrowed her eyes. "Due process?" "Yes, Your Honor. Notice must be sent to the owner's primary residence, not the vacant property." A clerk near the front looked up, surprised. Judge Harrow's jaw tightened. "Are you a lawyer, Miss Bennett?" "No, ma'am." "Then don't talk like one." A bailiff near the wall snorted. Gloria nodded politely. "I'm just asking to be heard." Harrow slammed her gavel. Bang. "You are wasting this court's time." The sound made a young man in the front row flinch. "Fine is $750 for the structure, and another $750 for failing to appear earlier." "I was never notified of—" $1,500 total, the judge barked. "Pay within 30 days or the city seizes the property." "That violates—" Bang! "You don't get to tell me what violates what. This is my courtroom." Gloria lifted her chin slightly. "Respectfully, Your Honor, the Constitution still applies here." A few lawyers stopped smiling. Judge Harrow laughed. It was loud, mean, designed to humiliate. "Oh, this is rich. You watched one legal show and now you're an expert?" Gloria didn't blink. "Bailiff," Harrow said, waving her hand, "remove her before she files an appeal to the moon." The bailiff, a thick-armed man named Carter, grabbed Gloria's arm. She pulled back just enough to make him stop. "Please, don't touch me," she said, voice firm now. That shift, small but sharp, made Carter hesitate. Judge Harrow stood. "You're in contempt," she announced. 30 days in county." Gasps rippled through the room. "For asking a question?" someone whispered. 30 days, Harrow repeated. "Maybe jail will teach you courtroom manners." Gloria looked straight at the judge. No fear, no anger, just quiet certainty. "You've made a serious mistake," she said softly. "Take her," Harrow snapped. Carter led her out as people stared. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked relieved it wasn't them. Upstairs in her chambers an hour later, Judge Evelyn Harrow was laughing over lunch. "She quoted the Constitution," Harrow told a local defense attorney between bites of salad. "In a hoodie." The attorney forced a huckle. "She did sound educated." "Please," Harrow scoffed. "They all think Google makes them lawyers." A knock hit the door. Her clerk, Marissa, stepped in, pale. "Judge, there's a call." "Take a message." "It's from the state attorney general's office." Harrow rolled her eyes. "About what?" Marissa swallowed. "They're asking about a woman you just held in contempt." "Harrow?" Harrow frowned. "Bennett?" "Yes, Judge." "So?" Marissa's voice dropped to a whisper. "They didn't call her Miss Bennett." Harrow's fork paused mid-air. "What did they call her?" Marissa looked like she might faint. "They called her Justice Bennett." Silence swallowed the room. The judge blinked. "Justice?" she repeated. Marissa nodded. "They said Associate Justice Gloria Bennett. United States Supreme Court." The fork clattered onto the plate. Color drained from Harrow's face. "That's impossible," she said. Marissa slowly turned her monitor around. On the screen was an official portrait. Black robe, silver hair, sharp eyes. The same woman, just without the hoodie. Judge Evelyn Harrow felt something cold crawl up her spine. Downstairs, in a holding cell that smelled like bleach and rust, Gloria Bennett sat calmly on a metal bench. 2 young women nearby were crying. Gloria closed her eyes and waited, because the trap had already snapped shut. Judge Evelyn Harrow's hands would not stop shaking. She stood in the middle of her chambers, staring at the computer screen like it might change if she blinked hard enough. It didn't. The official Supreme Court portrait of Justice Gloria Bennett stared back at her, calm, powerful, unmistakable. Same eyes, same face, same woman she had just thrown in jail. "Oh my God," Marissa breathed. "Judge, what do we do?" Before Harrow could answer, the phone rang again. Marissa grabbed it, listened, then covered the receiver. "It's from the Department of Justice." Harrow nearly collapsed into her chair. "Tell them I'm in court," she croaked. "You're not in court." "Then tell them I'm dead," Harrow snapped. Marissa froze. Too late. They say federal agents are already on their way. The room shrank. The air felt thin. "Get the bailiff," Harrow whispered. "Bring her up, now, and tell him to be respectful." Downstairs, the heavy metal cell door clanked open. Bailiff Carter stepped inside, and he looked nothing like the smug man from earlier. He looked terrified. Miss Bennett?" he stammered. Gloria looked up slowly. Her eyes were steady, knowing. "The judge would like to see you," Carter said. Gloria stood. The 2 young women in the cell stared at her. "Don't worry," Gloria told them gently.
Carter led her through the
"You won't
hallway
be here
in
long."
silence, but everything had changed. Doors opened for her. Officers stepped aside. No one touched her. The ride up the elevator felt longer than the arrest. Carter kept sneaking glances at her reflection in the metal walls, like he was escorting royalty or a bomb. When they reached chambers, Carter opened the door like he was afraid of what was inside. Judge Harrow stood behind her desk, forcing a smile that looked painful. "Leave us," she told Carter. The door shut. Silence. Gloria did not sit. Harrow tried first. "Justice Bennett, Don't," Gloria said quietly. One word, but it froze the judge in place. "You didn't know who I was," Gloria continued. "That much is clear." Harrow swallowed. "If I had known, that's exactly the problem." Gloria stepped closer. Her voice was calm, controlled, deadly. "If you had known I was a Supreme Court justice, you would have followed the law." Harrow's lips trembled. I run a busy courtroom. Sometimes things move fast. You find me without evidence. Harrow said nothing. You mocked my appearance. There was silence. You denied me the right to speak. And then, Gloria continued, you jailed me for asking about due process. The word echoed in the room. Due process, the foundation of the entire system. I can reverse it, dismiss everything, expunge it. Gloria reached into her hoodie pocket. Harrow flinched. Gloria pulled out a small digital recorder. The red light blinked. I've been recording since I walked into your courtroom, Gloria said. Harrow felt sick. I have you laughing at a defendant. I have you stating the Constitution doesn't matter in your courtroom. Harrow's knees buckled and she grabbed the desk. I can't use that, she whispered. Gloria tilted her head. Public official, public courtroom, performing official duties. Harrow's mind raced. Press, disciplinary review, federal charges, career over. You entrapped me, Harrow said weakly. No, Gloria replied. I revealed you. The words hit harder than any accusation. There are people sitting in your jail right now because you don't see them as people. You see them as noise, as inconvenience. Harrow's voice cracked. I have a family. Gloria's eyes hardened. So did the single mother you jailed for unpaid parking tickets. The judge covered her mouth. A knock sounded at the door. Firm, official. Gloria didn't turn around. Come in, she said. The door opened. 2 federal agents stepped inside, badges visible, serious faces. Judge Evelyn Harrow, we need to speak with you regarding allegations of civil rights violations under color of law. Harrow looked at Gloria, pleading, desperate. Gloria gave nothing back. No smile, no anger, just justice. The agent continued, you are not under arrest at this moment, but you are the subject of a federal investigation. Harrow felt the last bit of control slip through her fingers. I need a lawyer, she whispered. That would be wise, Gloria said. And for the first time all day, Judge Evelyn Harrow understood exactly how it felt to be powerless. Word spread through the courthouse like a lightning strike. Something was wrong. Clerks stopped typing. Lawyers stepped into hallways, whispering. Deputies who usually joked near the vending machines now stood stiff and silent. 2 black SUVs had just pulled into the courthouse parking lot, and everyone had seen the federal badges. In the main hallway, a public defender leaned towards a prosecutor. Who are they here for? The prosecutor swallowed. The judge. Phones came out. Texts flew. Something big is happening. Inside chambers, Judge Evelyn Harrow sat frozen while federal agents calmly photographed documents on her desk, her nameplate, her calendar, her computer. Every click of the camera felt like a nail in her career's coffin. Across the hall, Gloria Bennett stepped out of chambers beside another agent. She was still wearing the hoodie, still in sneakers, but now people were staring at her like they were seeing a ghost or a legend. Is that really? That's her! No way! A young clerk dropped a stack of folders. Gloria walked past them with quiet composure. She didn't look proud, she didn't look angry, she looked focused. Because this wasn't about revenge, this was about cleaning rot out of the system. Near the elevators, Bailiff Carter stood rigid, sweat soaking through his collar. When Gloria approached, he lowered his eyes. Justice Bennett, I didn't know. She stopped. You didn't need to know who I was. You just needed to do what was right. The words hit him harder than a scream. Downstairs in the holding area, deputies were unlocking cell doors. The young woman who had been crying earlier stepped out, confused. Am I free? Yes, a deputy muttered. Orders from upstairs. For what? He hesitated. Wrongful detainment. The girl blinked. Since when does that matter here? He didn't answer, because today was different. Back upstairs, the courthouse lobby filled with murmurs. Local attorneys who laughed in Judge Harrow's courtroom now avoided eye contact with one another. One defense lawyer slipped into a stairwell and dialed his office. "Shred everything," he hissed. "Old sentencing memos, client referral notes, all of it." Across town, Mayor Richard Halston was watching the news in his office when the breaking banner flashed across the screen. Federal investigation into Norwood judge. His face went pale. He grabbed his phone and dialed frantically. "Tell me Harrow kept her mouth shut," he barked into the receiver. But the police chief on the other end sounded shaken. "Sir, the feds are talking to everyone, clerks, deputies, even former defendants." Halston poured himself a drink with trembling hands. "Destroy anything tied to the redevelopment deals," he ordered. "Emails, contracts, everything." But even as he spoke, he knew. It was already too late. Back at the courthouse, reporters had started gathering outside. Camera crews rushed up the steps. A news van nearly hit a mailbox trying to park. Inside, federal agents escorted Judge Harrow out of her chambers. She wasn't in handcuffs. Not yet. But her face was drained of color. Gone was the confident smirk. Gone was the sharp voice. She looked smaller, like someone who had just realized the ground beneath her life was hollow. As she passed through the lobby, whispers followed her. "That's the judge? She looks terrified." Good. Near the doors, Gloria stood speaking quietly with an agent. When Harrow passed, their eyes met. The judge's lips trembled. "I never meant for it to go this far." Gloria's voice was soft. "It was always this far. You just never had to see it." Harrow looked down. Outside, cameras flashed as she stepped into the sunlight. The courthouse doors closed behind her. Inside, a strange silence settled. Not the old silence of fear. A new one. The kind that comes right before truth starts pouring out. In a small interview room down the hall, clerks were being questioned. Did the judge often deny defendants the right to speak? Yes. Did she issue fines without hearings? Yes. Did she treat certain neighborhoods differently? Long pause. Yes. Each answer tightened the net. In another office, financial records were being boxed up, sentencing logs flagged, case files reopened. A pattern was emerging. And it was ugly. Back in the lobby, Gloria looked around at the building, the scuffed floors, the peeling paint, the place where justice had slowly been replaced by ego. A young public defender approached her hesitantly. "Justice Bennett?" he asked. She turned. "I just wanted to say thank you," he said. "I've been trying to fight this system for years. No one listened." Gloria gave him a small nod. They'll listen now. Because the story was no longer hidden in whispered complaints. Now it had federal case numbers, search warrants, subpoenas, and names. Powerful names. As Gloria walked toward the exit, a court reporter called after her. "Justice Bennett, why didn't you reveal who you were sooner?" She paused at the doors, turned. Because justice should work even when no one important is watching. And then she stepped outside into the chaos of cameras and flashing lights. But the real storm was just beginning. Mayor Richard Halston had built his career on smiling for cameras. Now there were no cameras in his office, just drawn blinds and the glow of a muted TV showing his worst nightmare. Judge Evelyn Harrow stepping into a federal vehicle. Headline crawling underneath. Federal probe expands beyond the courthouse. Halston muted the screen and paced. "This was supposed to be contained," he muttered. His phone buzzed nonstop. City council members, donors, his brother-in-law, the developer. He ignored them all and called one person. "Frank," Halston said when the line picked up, "tell me Pine Ridge files are clean." Frank was the city planning director, nervous by nature, complicit by pressure. I shredded what I could," Frank stammered, "but the digital backups." Halston slammed his fist on the desk. "You were supposed to wipe those." "I tried, but IT logs everything." Halston hung up. Sweat beaded along his hairline, because if federal agents followed the court corruption, they would find the land deals. And if they found the land deals, they would find him. Across town, in a modest diner on Maple Avenue, Gloria Bennett sat in a booth with a cup of coffee. No cameras here, no speeches, just quiet. Across from her sat a thin man with thick glasses and shaking hands. Daniel Ruiz, former city zoning inspector, whistleblower, or at least he was about to be. I tried to report it. Years ago, they reassigned me. Then they started threatening my job. What did you see? Gloria asked. Daniel slid a folder across the table. Inside were copies of inspection reports, photos, condemnation notices. But something stood out. Every condemned property circled in red was in the same neighborhood, Norwood's historically black district. Look at the dates, Daniel said. They lined up perfectly with court dockets under Judge Harrow. First, minor code violation. Then, massive fines. Then, court order. Then, property seizure. And who bought the land after seizure? Gloria asked quietly. Daniel swallowed. Pine Ridge Development. Owned by the mayor's brother-in-law. Gloria leaned back. The picture was complete. A pipeline. Weaponized fines, fast-track court rulings, families pushed out, homes seized, neighborhood flipped for luxury condos, all stamped with the seal of the court. This wasn't negligence, Gloria said. It was business. Daniel nodded miserably. They needed the land cheap, so they made the people cheaper. Back at City Hall, Halston's chief of staff burst into his office. Sir, federal agents just entered the planning department. Halston felt his knees weaken. They have a warrant. For what? Zoning records, property seizures, campaign finance files. Halston sank into his chair. He looked at a framed photo on his desk, ribbon cutting at Pine Ridge condos. He had smiled so wide that day. He picked up the frame and threw it across the room. Glass shattered. Across the city, phones rang in law offices. Developers' assistants cried in bathrooms. A banker quietly emailed his lawyer with the subject line, urgent. Because the story wasn't about one bad judge anymore. It was about a system, and systems don't fall quietly. At the courthouse, agents escorted boxes of files past stunned employees. A veteran court clerk wiped tears from her face. I knew something was wrong, she whispered, but nobody listens to clerks. An agent paused. We are now. That afternoon, a press conference formed on the courthouse steps. U.S. Attorney Lena Morales stepped to the podium. Today's investigation has expanded, she announced. We have evidence suggesting coordinated abuse of the court system to force property seizures in targeted communities. Reporters shouted questions. Are elected officials involved? Yes. Is the mayor under investigation? We do not comment on ongoing targets, but everyone knew what that meant. Meanwhile, inside a quiet federal building, Judge Harrow sat alone in an interview room. Her makeup was smudged, her confidence gone. An investigator slid a folder in front of her. Inside were transcripts, recordings, complaints, patterns. Judge Harrow, he said calmly, this is bigger than courtroom misconduct. She stared at the table. Tears fell silently, because for the first time in her career, she was the one waiting to be judged. Back at the diner, Daniel finished his coffee. Am I going to jail? He asked. No, Gloria said. You came forward. He nodded, relief washing over him. Why did you come here yourself? He asked. You could have sent agents. Gloria looked out the window at families walking past. Because justice isn't paperwork, she said. It's people. Daniel blinked. What happens now? Gloria stood. Now, she said, we rebuild what they tried to erase. Outside, news alerts lit up phones across Oak Ridge. Mayor linked to land seizure scheme. Federal task force formed. Special grand jury convened. The city wasn't just shocked. It was waking up. And at the center of it all was a woman they had laughed at in a hoodie. Mayor Richard Halston didn't wait for the knock. When the pounding hit his front door just after sunrise, he already knew. His wife stood at the top of the staircase, robe clutched tight. "Richard?" He closed his eyes. "Federal agents," a voice called from outside. "We have a warrant." Halston opened the door before they could knock again. Flash. Cameras across the street. Neighbors peeking through curtains. The smile he had perfected over 20 years in politics was gone. In its place, a man who had run out of exits. "Richard Halston," he said, "you are being detained pending charges related to conspiracy, fraud, and civil rights violations." His wife gasped. "This is a mistake," Halston said automatically, but his voice lacked conviction, because he remembered every meeting, every redevelopment opportunity, every time he told himself it was just business. They led him down the steps. No handcuffs yet, but no dignity either. Across town, Pine Ridge Development's downtown office was being emptied. Employees stood outside, stunned, while agents carried out computers and boxes of contracts. The company's CEO, Halston's brother-in-law, tried to argue, "This is political." An agent handed him a document. "It's financial." Inside, forensic accountants were already tracing money, shell companies, hidden transfers, campaign donations routed through fake vendors. Every dollar told the same story: profit built on stolen homes. Back at the courthouse, something else was happening. Not arrests. Releases. Families lined the hallway outside a temporary legal aid station set up overnight. Volunteer attorneys, civil rights lawyers, even law students had shown up. Boxes of case files sat open on folding tables. A young mother clutched eviction papers with shaking hands. "They took my house over grass being too tall," she said. "I paid the fine, but they added more fees. Then court said I still owed thousands." A lawyer scanned the documents. "These penalties were unlawful," he said gently. "We're filing an emergency motion to reverse the seizure." She burst into tears. "Does that mean we can go home?" He smiled. "That means someone finally listened." In another room, Gloria Bennett stood quietly as attorneys worked. She wasn't leading, she wasn't directing. She was watching justice happen the way it was supposed to. Messy, human, fair. A teenage boy approached her hesitantly. "Ma'am?" She turned. "My grandma lost her house last year," he said. "She said nobody cared. I just wanted to say thank you for caring." Gloria felt her throat tighten. "What's your grandma's name?" she asked. "Lillian Carter." Gloria smiled softly. "Let's go get Lillian Carter's house back." Meanwhile, in a federal courtroom 2 cities away, Judge Evelyn Harrow sat at the defense table. No robe, no bench, no power. Just another defendant waiting for her name to be called. Her attorney whispered urgently beside her, but Harrow barely heard him. She watched other defendants shuffle in wearing the same lost expression she used to ignore. For the first time, she understood the weight of that room, the fear, the helplessness. When her case was called for an initial hearing, she stood on shaky legs. "Judge Harrow," the magistrate said evenly, "you are charged with multiple counts of civil rights violations, unlawful detention, and abuse of judicial authority." Each word landed like a hammer. "Do you understand the charges?" Her voice broke. "Yes." Back in Norwood, the news spread fast, not just about arrests, but about reversals. Wrongful convictions reopened, fines dismissed, seized properties frozen from resale. At the diner on Maple Avenue, Daniel Ruiz watched coverage with tears in his eyes. A reporter stood in front of Pine Ridge condos. "Developments built on seized land are now under federal review," she said. "Some properties may be returned to original owners or families compensated." Daniel whispered to himself. It actually mattered. Telling the truth actually mattered. That afternoon, Gloria visited the Norwood neighborhood that had been hit hardest. Boarded windows, overgrown lots, homes half renovated and abandoned when the investigation began. But people were outside, talking, hope moving like electricity through the streets. An elderly woman sat on a folding chair in front of a small blue house, paint peeling, porch sagging, but her eyes were bright. "Miss Bennett?"
she called. Gloria approached. "They said you helped get this place back for me. Been in my family 40 years. "What's your name?" Gloria asked gently. "Lillian Carter." Gloria smiled softly. "Your grandson came looking for you." Laughed, covering her mouth. "That boy worries too much." She reached for Gloria's hand. "I thought nobody saw us. I thought we were just easy to push aside." Gloria squeezed her hand. "I saw you." And for a moment, the weight of the entire case, the arrests, the headlines, the politics, faded. Because this was the point. Not punishment, restoration. As the sun dipped lower over Norwood, moving trucks began arriving, families returning, volunteers helping clean yards, church groups bringing food, lawyers explaining next steps at card tables on sidewalks. Justice wasn't a headline anymore. It was neighbors hugging in the street. And in the distance, cameras still rolled. But for once, they weren't capturing power. They were capturing healing. The courtroom was packed long before the hearing began. Not with reporters, not with politicians, with families. Mothers holding folders of reopened cases. Elderly couples clutching property deeds they thought they'd never see again. Young people sitting quietly, watching history unfold in the same system that had once ignored them. At the front of the room sat Evelyn Harrow. No robe, no elevated bench, just a defendant in a navy suit that suddenly looked too big for her. She kept her eyes down as the courtroom filled, because every whisper felt like a verdict. Across the aisle sat federal prosecutors, stacks of binders in front of them. Behind them, rows of community members who had come not for revenge, but for closure. When the judge entered, a white woman with calm eyes and a steady presence, the room rose. This judge didn't rush, didn't snap, didn't glare at anyone. She took her seat and looked over the courtroom like every person mattered. "Be seated," she said. The contrast was impossible to miss. The prosecutor stood first. "Your Honor, today we present evidence that the defendant knowingly violated the constitutional rights of hundreds of citizens, disproportionately targeting vulnerable communities through unlawful fines, detentions, and coordinated property seizures." Photos appeared on the courtroom screen. Families in front of homes they lost. Elderly residents holding eviction notices. Case after case, pattern after pattern. Harrow's attorney objected several times. Each objection was calmly overruled because the evidence wasn't emotional. It was documented, recorded, time-stamped. Then came the recordings. Harrow's own voice echoed through the courtroom speakers, laughing at a defendant, saying the Constitution didn't apply in her courtroom, mocking someone's appearance. Each clip tightened the silence in the room. Harrow's shoulders shook, but no one looked away. Because for years, they had been the ones forced to stand silently while power spoke. Now, power had to listen. When it was time for impact statements, the first to approach the podium was Lillian Carter. She walked slowly, Gloria seated beside her grandson in the gallery. "I'm 72 years old," Lillian began. "That house was paid off. My husband built the back porch with his own hands." Her voice wavered. "They said I owed fines I didn't understand. Then one day, strangers told me it wasn't my home anymore." She looked at Harrow. "You didn't just take wood and walls. You took memories." There were quiet sniffles across the room. Lillian stepped down. Next came the young mother from the courthouse hallway, then a veteran, then a teacher. Each story different. Each wound caused by the same system. By the time the statements ended, even Harrow's attorney had stopped taking notes. Because there was no strategy for this, only consequences. When it was her turn to speak, Harrow stood on trembling legs. "I thought I was being efficient," she said weakly. "I thought I was maintaining order." She swallowed hard. "I stopped seeing people." That was the truest thing she had said all day. But it came years too late. The judge listened without expression. Then she spoke. "Power without empathy is abuse.
A courtroom is not a conveyor belt. It is a place where lives are weighed. She paused. You forgot that. Harold closed her eyes. The sentence was not delivered that day. Legal proceedings would continue. But something more important had already happened. The truth had been spoken where it once had been silenced. Outside the courthouse, cameras waited again. But when Gloria Bennett stepped out this time, she didn't stop for the microphones. She walked down the steps where families were gathered. Some hugged, some cried. Some just stood in quiet disbelief that the nightmare was finally being untangled. A reporter called out, "Justice Bennett, do you feel vindicated?" Gloria turned briefly. "This was never about me," she said. "Then what is it about?" She looked back at the crowd. Neighbors helping neighbors, lawyers exchanging numbers with families, strangers embracing like relatives. It's about a system remembering who it belongs to. She didn't stay for more questions. Because justice wasn't a speech. It was work, ongoing, imperfect, but alive. As evening settled over Norwood, porch lights flickered on across streets that had almost been erased. Children rode bikes past homes that were no longer for sale. Volunteers painted over foreclosure notices still taped to doors. Inside one of those homes, Lillian Carter sat at her kitchen table with her grandson drinking tea. "You think it's really over?" he asked. Lillian smiled. "No, baby," she said. "But now we know we're not invisible." Across town, in a quiet hotel room, Gloria packed her bag. No motorcade waited, no ceremony planned, just another city, another case, another place where justice needed to be reminded of its job. Before turning out the light, she looked once more at the skyline. Not with pride, not with anger, but with resolve. Because power had learned something in Oak Ridge. The people you overlook are the ones who change everything. Now, tell me the truth. If you were Justice Bennett, would you have revealed who you were immediately, or would you have let the judge expose herself first? Drop your answer in the comments. I read them all. And if this story gave you chills, if it made you angry, if it made you proud, hit that like button and subscribe. Because the next story, let's just say the corrupt won't see it coming either. Turn on notifications so you don't miss it.
This story of Supreme Justice Gloria Bennett and Judge Evelyn Harold teaches us never to judge people by how they look, how they speak, or where they stand. Because power doesn't always announce itself, and arrogance has a way of exposing itself. The moment you abuse authority, it stops protecting you. Sometimes the biggest mistake isn't breaking the rules. It is underestimating the person you are trying to break. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. If you did, please like and subscribe to our channel and make sure to turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first person to watch a video when it drops on our channel. Stay blessed and have a great day.